What if the freedom you thought was lost could be yours again? Evelyn's voice trembled as she stared at the glowing screen of her tablet, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across her quiet kitchen. The headline read, "Tesla unveils fully autonomous self-driving program, revolutionizing transportation for all ages." At 68, Evelyn felt the weight of every year in her bones and the sting of every closed door she hadn't dared to knock on. The news alert was like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman, a spark flickering in the dark. She had given up driving 6 months ago, after a minor fender bender that rattled her confidence and her independence. Since then, the world outside her small-town home had shrunk to grocery runs with her daughter or rides arranged through neighbors. Her once lively days, filled with visits to friends, church meetings, and spontaneous road trips with her late husband, were now slow, fragmented, and painfully quiet. The small kitchen where she sat was cold, the scent of forgotten dinners lingering, a shrine to memories she felt slipping away. Then the podcast began, Elon Musk's voice, calm but fervent, seeping from the tablet speaker. We don't have to accept the limitations that society places on us, especially when it comes to age. Innovation is about pushing boundaries, not stepping back. Autonomous driving isn't just technology, it's freedom. Freedom to reclaim your time, your life, your dreams, no matter how many years have passed. Those words hit Evelyn like a thunderclap, shaking loose a feeling she hadn't dared to name, hope. Could it be true? Was there a path back to the life she once knew, or even a new life she had never imagined? She looked out the window toward the empty street, imagining herself behind the wheel again, not just as a passenger but the one in control. The hum of the world outside felt distant, but inside, a revolution was stirring. She whispered to herself, maybe I'm not done yet. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Evelyn closed the tablet slowly and pressed her hands to her temples, memories flooding in. There was a time when she and Henry drove cross-country in their old Chevy, windows down, music blaring, hearts full of dreams. That road trip was more than a journey, it was a symbol of freedom, of youth and promise. Now, that freedom felt like a distant echo, a ghost of what could have been. Regrets weighed heavy, dreams she shelved, conversations left unsaid, a daughter who drifted further with each passing year, and the loneliness that settled like dust in her bones. She had watched friends fade away, health decline, and the world speed ahead without her. Sometimes she wondered if anyone still cared about the woman she used to be. The mirror reflected a face marked by time, but inside, a fierce spark lingered, waiting for a reason to blaze. That reason was Tesla's revolution, and Elon Musk's unyielding belief in progress against the odds. But could she bridge the gap between fear and possibility? Could she embrace a world that seemed built for the young and the tech-savvy? The questions gnawed at her. Is it too late for me? She asked aloud, her voice cracking. Her doctor's recent words echoed in her mind, slow down, Evelyn. Take it easy. Don't push yourself. But that sounded like surrender, and surrender wasn't her style. Then came the skepticism of her daughter, who worried about the safety of self-driving cars, fearing a headline might bring tragedy to their doorstep. Yet, buried beneath that concern was a glimmer of hope, a hope that her mother could find new purpose, new independence. The inner war raged on, doubts clashing with desire. Then, on a quiet evening, a familiar TED Talk popped up on her feed. Elon Musk speaking about innovation, fearlessness, and the audacity to dream beyond limitations. If you're not failing, you're not innovating, he said, his eyes bright with conviction. Age is just a number. What matters is the drive to make a difference, to keep moving forward. Evelyn felt her heart quicken. That was it, the spark she needed. The next morning, with trembling hands but a resolute heart, she downloaded the Tesla app. It wasn't just an app, it was a gateway to reclaiming her life. She signed up for a virtual workshop on self-driving technology, feeling like a student stepping into a new world. The first autonomous ride was surreal, a mix of exhilaration and fear. The car glided smoothly along the streets, obeying every rule flawlessly, while Evelyn marveled at the possibilities unfolding before her. She was no longer just a passenger in her own life, she was steering a new course. The story of her ride spread quickly after she shared a simple video on social media. Messages poured in from people her age, inspired by her courage to embrace change. Even her daughter reached out, their long-distance relationship softening as they connected over this shared journey. The victories were small but monumental, a trip to visit an old friend, a drive to the park she hadn't seen in years. With each mile, Evelyn rebuilt her confidence, rewrote her story, and shattered the invisible walls that aging had placed around her. "I thought it was the end," she said one evening, looking out at the setting sun, but it was just a new beginning. She was never too old, she was just waiting for permission to matter again. And Tesla's self-driving revolution, sparked by Elon Musk's vision, had handed her that permission. The road ahead was open, and for Evelyn, freedom was no longer a memory but a living, breathing reality. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Jack had never imagined he would find himself in a Tesla showroom at 72, staring at a sleek silver Model 3 that seemed more spaceship than car. For most of his life, he'd been a man of his hands, an engineer who built things the old-fashioned way, solid, reliable, predictable. Technology, especially the kind that promised to change everything overnight, made him uneasy. He still preferred a wrench to an app, a blueprint to a screen. But the whispers about Tesla's fully autonomous cars had reached his ears through his grandson, who was relentlessly enthusiastic about the future. Jack's son was cautious, warning about the risks and the unknowns, but Jack's curiosity had grown stronger than his doubts. The showroom smelled like new leather and clean metal, an intoxicating blend of promise and innovation. He touched the steering wheel gently, marveling at the absence of buttons cluttering the dashboard. It was a cockpit designed for the 21st century, but the question that burned inside him was whether he was too old to step inside it, to trust a machine with his safety and freedom. "Is it safe?" he asked the young saleswoman, who smiled patiently. Tesla's autonomous system has been tested millions of miles on the road. It learns, adapts, and improves every day. It's designed to keep you safe and give you back your independence. The words were reassuring, but Jack's mind was a battlefield of memories and fears. He thought about the factory floors he had walked, the machines he had built, the world he had seen transform from industrial might to digital dominance. He remembered the missed birthdays, the lost opportunities to connect with his family because work had always come first. Now, retirement brought silence where once there had been the hum of productivity. He wondered if embracing this new technology was a way to reclaim more than just mobility. Could it restore a connection to a world that had moved on without him? At home, his workshop was cluttered with tools and unfinished projects, a museum of a life spent creating but never quite completing. Jack's biggest regret was the distance growing between him and his grandchildren. He longed to bridge that gap, but every conversation seemed to highlight the generation divide, the tech-savvy youth versus the analog elder. The Tesla event had given him a flicker of hope. Maybe he could find common ground through this technology. That night, he watched Elon Musk's interview on a late-night talk show. Elon's words were magnetic, filled with a rebellious optimism that resonated deep within Jack's heart. Innovation isn't just for the young, it's for anyone brave enough to challenge the status quo. Age is a mindset, not a barrier. Those words echoed in Jack's mind as he drifted to sleep, a gentle challenge to his long-held beliefs. Over the next few days, Jack's skepticism softened into cautious excitement. He attended a community workshop where Tesla representatives demonstrated the technology to seniors. The room buzzed with questions and nervous laughter. Jack's turn to try the self-driving simulator came with sweaty palms and a pounding heart. As he gripped the wheel, the screen showed a virtual highway where the car steered itself with flawless precision. The sensation was strange but exhilarating, a dance between control and trust. He realized that this wasn't about giving up but about evolving, adapting to a new kind of mastery. Encouraged by the experience, Jack volunteered to help organize a local Tesla club for seniors curious about autonomous driving. He found himself teaching others how to use the app, sharing tips, and most importantly, listening to their fears and hopes. The group became a sanctuary, a place where age was no longer a limitation but a shared strength. Through these gatherings, Jack rediscovered purpose. He wasn't just a relic of the past but a pioneer of a new kind of freedom. His grandchildren began to see him differently, not as a technophobe but as a man willing to embrace change and lead by example. One afternoon, Jack took his first autonomous ride beyond the city limits. The car hummed smoothly, navigating winding country roads as Jack watched the landscape blur past with a mix of wonder and nostalgia. He thought of his father, who had taught him to drive on similar roads decades ago. This ride was a tribute to that legacy and a step toward a future filled with possibility. Yet, the journey wasn't without its challenges. When news broke of a minor accident involving an autonomous vehicle nearby, Jack's community was shaken. Doubts resurfaced, and some members questioned if they had been too quick to trust the technology. Jack remembered Elon Musk's address to the public, acknowledging the risks but emphasizing the commitment to safety, transparency, and continuous improvement. Progress isn't perfect from the start, Elon had said. But it's the only way forward. Inspired by these words, Jack helped lead discussions within his club, encouraging critical thinking balanced with hope. The experience bonded the group stronger than ever, transforming fear into informed advocacy. Months later, Jack stood at a community center, watching a group of seniors and younger volunteers prepare for a local event celebrating technological empowerment. The room was alive with laughter, stories, and a shared vision. He caught sight of Evelyn, a woman whose journey he had followed online and now knew personally. Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange was the recognition of two lives renewed by courage and curiosity. This is just the beginning, Jack thought, his heart swelling with pride. We are the new pioneers. As the sun set over the town, Jack reflected on his transformation. He had stepped beyond his comfort zone, faced his fears, and embraced a future that once seemed foreign. The autonomous revolution wasn't just about cars, it was about reclaiming agency, dignity, and connection at any age. I am not too old, he whispered to himself. I am exactly where I need to be. Evelyn and Jack's paths crossed on a crisp autumn morning at the community center, where Tesla had organized an event aimed at introducing seniors to the self-driving revolution. The room buzzed with excitement and nervous anticipation, a mix of curiosity and cautious optimism filling the air. Evelyn arrived early, clutching her tablet, eager yet apprehensive about what lay ahead. She noticed Jack immediately. Tall, steady, with a presence that seemed to bridge the gap between old-school grit and newfound openness to change. As participants mingled, Evelyn and Jack found themselves standing side by side near the Tesla display, their conversation starting with tentative smiles and mutual recognition from social media posts they had shared in recent months. Evelyn shared her story of rediscovering freedom through autonomous rides, Jack spoke of overcoming skepticism and the joy of reconnecting with his grandchildren through technology. Their shared experiences formed the foundation of a friendship rooted in resilience and hope. The event progressed with demonstrations, Q&A sessions, and hands-on workshops. Evelyn marveled at how the self-driving car navigated complex maneuvers, while Jack helped fellow seniors grasp the Tesla app's features. They both realized the power of community in facing the fears and challenges that came with embracing such radical change. After the event, Evelyn and Jack co-founded the Autonomy for All Club, a grassroots movement to support seniors in adopting autonomous technology and redefining what it means to age with purpose. The club quickly became a beacon of empowerment, a place where stories of struggle and triumph intertwined, fostering solidarity and inspiration. Yet, the journey was not without setbacks. A local incident involving a self-driving vehicle triggered a wave of fear and skepticism among the town's residents. Media coverage amplified the incident, casting doubt on the safety of Tesla's technology and shaking the confidence of many in the community, including some club members. Evelyn and Jack faced their toughest test yet. Drawing on Elon Musk's message of innovation tempered by responsibility, they organized a town hall meeting to address concerns transparently. They invited experts, shared data, and encouraged open dialogue, demonstrating that fear could be met with knowledge and collective action. The experience deepened their resolve and strengthened the club's mission, to be advocates for change that was both courageous and informed. Amid the challenges, personal victories blossomed. Evelyn made her first solo autonomous trip to visit a childhood friend she hadn't seen in decades, the journey a tapestry of nostalgia and newfound confidence. Jack, once a man hesitant to embrace the digital age, now taught his grandchildren about the technology powering their rides, bridging generational divides with patience and pride. Their transformation rippled outward, inspiring others to reclaim autonomy and purpose. The club's influence reached beyond the town, attracting media attention and sparking conversations about aging, technology, and the power of reinvention. Evelyn and Jack's story became a symbol of hope, a testament that change was possible at any age when fear was met with courage and community. As they stood together one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and pink, Evelyn smiled and said, "I never imagined this would be my chapter, but it's the most vibrant one yet." Jack nodded, adding, "We are proof that the future belongs to those who dare to embrace it, no matter the years behind us." The Tesla self-driving revolution had become more than a technological breakthrough. It was a movement of hearts and minds reclaiming freedom, connection, and legacy. Evelyn and Jack had found new beginnings not just on the roads but in the stories they shared, the friendships they built, and the lives they touched. Their journey was far from over. It was only the start of a fully autonomous America where age was no barrier, and every mile traveled was a step toward a life lived fully and fearlessly. The ripple effects of Evelyn and Jack's journey spread far beyond their small town, gradually weaving into the fabric of a larger, transformative movement across America. As Tesla's self-driving revolution gained momentum, it became a beacon of possibility for seniors nationwide who had long felt sidelined by rapid technological advances and a society that seemed to equate aging with decline. It wasn't just about cars anymore, it was about reclaiming agency, dignity, and connection in a world that had often left older generations feeling invisible. Among those inspired was Margaret, a 70-year-old retired nurse from Ohio who had spent years caring for others but rarely allowed herself the freedom to pursue her own dreams. The announcement of fully autonomous Tesla vehicles stirred something inside her, a yearning for adventure she had buried under decades of responsibility and self-doubt. With trembling fingers, she signed up for a local workshop sponsored by Tesla and led by volunteers from groups like Evelyn and Jack's Autonomy for All Club. The workshop was a revelation. Margaret marveled at how intuitive the technology was, how it promised a future where she could visit places she hadn't seen since her youth, parks, museums, even distant family homes, without relying on others. The sense of possibility was intoxicating. Yet, with every hopeful step came the shadows of fear and uncertainty. Stories of accidents involving autonomous vehicles made headlines, fueling skepticism and resistance in many communities. Critics questioned the reliability of the technology, the ethics of delegating control to machines, and the readiness of infrastructure to support this new era. For many seniors, these concerns were compounded by feelings of alienation from a tech-driven society that often seemed to speak a foreign language. In response, groups like Autonomy for All evolved beyond simple education to become advocates for inclusivity and safety, striving to ensure that the voices of older Americans were heard in shaping the future of autonomous transportation. Evelyn and Jack emerged as leading figures in this movement, traveling to conferences, speaking at public forums, and engaging with policymakers. Their message was clear: autonomy was a right, not a privilege reserved for the young and tech-savvy. Their lived experience gave their advocacy profound authenticity and urgency. At a national conference on aging and technology, Evelyn shared her story to a packed audience. She spoke of fear transformed into hope, of barriers broken down by courage and community. Jack followed, weaving a narrative of reinvention, resilience, and the power of embracing change at any stage of life. Their words resonated deeply, sparking conversations that challenged stereotypes and inspired innovation tailored to the needs of seniors. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's vision for a fully autonomous America began to take shape in policy shifts and infrastructure investments. Governments partnered with Tesla and other innovators to create safer roads, smarter traffic systems, and inclusive programs designed to bring autonomous technology within reach of all citizens. Public-private collaborations focused on addressing concerns about safety, accessibility, and affordability, ensuring that the revolution did not leave anyone behind. In small towns and big cities alike, autonomous vehicles became symbols of empowerment. Seniors who had once felt tethered to limitations now found themselves exploring new horizons, visiting grandchildren, attending cultural events, or simply enjoying the freedom of the open road once again. Stories like Evelyn's, Jack's, and Margaret's filled social media and news outlets, painting a vivid picture of a society evolving to honor and uplift its elder members. Back in their town, Evelyn and Jack watched these changes with a mixture of pride and humility. They knew the journey was ongoing, the road ahead filled with both promise and challenges. But they had learned that transformation was not about perfection but persistence, about showing up, asking questions, facing fears, and building communities that lift each other up. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Evelyn said to Jack, "I never imagined technology could bring me back to life." Jack smiled, his eyes reflecting the fading light. "And I never thought I'd be teaching my grandchildren about the future I once feared." We're living proof that it's never too late to change. Their story, woven into the larger tapestry of Tesla's autonomous revolution, was a testament to the enduring human spirit and the boundless possibilities that emerge when innovation meets courage. In a fully autonomous America, the road belonged to everyone, every age, every story waiting to be rewritten. The legacy they forged was more than just a new way to travel, it was a new way to live. In the heart of a bustling city, where glass towers kissed the sky and the hum of progress never ceased, lived Grace, a 71-year-old widow whose life had been defined by routine, loss, and quiet resignation. Her days unfolded in predictable patterns: morning coffee on the balcony overlooking the busy streets, visits to the local library, and solitary dinners in the modest apartment that still held echoes of a marriage long past. The world outside moved at a relentless pace, one she felt increasingly disconnected from. Technology, once a curiosity, had become a source of anxiety, a reminder of how far she had fallen behind. Driving, which had once been a symbol of freedom, had become a distant memory after her doctor advised her to stop due to declining vision and slow reflexes. The thought of surrendering control was bitter, but the alternative, relying on others, felt equally constraining. One evening, Grace stumbled upon a televised interview with Elon Musk discussing Tesla's latest breakthrough, a fully autonomous vehicle designed to give back independence to those sidelined by age or disability. His words were passionate, filled with an infectious belief in possibility. "Innovation should empower everyone," he said. "No one should be left behind because of how old they are or the challenges they face. We're creating technology that doesn't just move cars, it moves lives." The idea lodged itself deep in Grace's mind. Could this be the key to unlocking a new chapter in her life? Over the next few weeks, Grace found herself drawn to stories of seniors embracing Tesla's self-driving revolution. She watched videos of Evelyn's solo trips rekindling old friendships, of Jack's transformation from skeptic to tech advocate, and of Margaret's newfound adventures. These narratives sparked something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Gathering courage, Grace attended a local "Autonomy for All" meeting. The room was filled with faces like hers, seasoned, weathered, yet eager for change. She listened as others shared their fears and triumphs, their doubts and dreams. The sense of community was a balm to her solitude. The hands-on demonstration of the autonomous vehicle was both thrilling and daunting. Sitting in the driver's seat, Grace felt a surge of emotions: excitement, fear, anticipation. When the car smoothly navigated the parking lot on its own, a smile broke across her face. It was a small moment, but for Grace, it was monumental. Her transformation wasn't instantaneous. There were days when anxiety won, when she questioned whether she could trust this new technology or herself to embrace it. Yet, each time she pushed past those doubts, she found new reservoirs of strength. Encouraged by the support of the club and the inspiration of Elon Musk's vision, Grace began to reclaim her autonomy incrementally. She scheduled her first autonomous ride to the grocery store, then to the park where she used to stroll with her late husband. With each trip, she rediscovered the joy of movement and the freedom of choice. The ripple effect touched her family as well. Her daughter, initially skeptical and protective, witnessed Grace's growing confidence and began to see the technology not as a threat but as a bridge reconnecting mother and child. They started planning joint outings, using the autonomous car to explore museums and theaters, reviving bonds that had frayed over time. Grace's journey was a testament to the power of resilience and the human capacity for adaptation. She embodied the essence of Elon Musk's message, that age and fear are not barriers but invitations to reinvent oneself. The technology was not just a tool but a catalyst for healing and growth. However, the road was not without its challenges. Infrastructure in parts of the city lagged behind the technology's capabilities, and regulatory hurdles occasionally delayed the expansion of autonomous services. Grace became an active participant in advocacy efforts, joining forces with local leaders and fellow seniors to petition for improvements and accessibility. Her voice, once hesitant and reserved, grew strong and determined. At a community rally, she stood before a crowd and declared, "We are not obstacles to progress, we are its greatest beneficiaries. Let us build a future where freedom belongs to all, regardless of age." The applause that followed was thunderous, a celebration of courage and community. Through Grace, the revolution took on a new face, one that embraced vulnerability, championed inclusion, and honored the rich tapestry of human experience. Her story, like those of Evelyn, Jack, and Margaret, illuminated the path toward a fully autonomous America that valued every individual's right to live boldly and freely. In the quiet moments of reflection, Grace often returned to Elon Musk's words, finding in them the fuel to keep moving forward. She realized that the true power of the self-driving revolution lay not in the technology itself but in the transformation it sparked within hearts and minds. "I am more than my fears," she whispered one evening, gazing out at the city lights. "I am a pioneer of my own journey." And with that declaration, Grace took her place among the countless others redefining what it meant to grow older in a world driven by innovation and hope. The air in the small Midwestern town was thick with the scent of rain and fallen leaves when Robert first encountered the self-driving car. At 74, Robert had spent his life behind the counter of a hardware store, a man known for his steady hands, practical mind, and quiet demeanor. Retirement had brought with it a sense of invisibility, the feeling that the world was moving too fast, leaving him behind. His children had moved to distant cities, wrapped up in careers and families, and his wife, Grace, no relation to the widow from the city, had passed away 5 years earlier, leaving a silence that echoed through his empty home. Robert's days were measured by simple routines. Morning walks, reading the local newspaper, and the occasional visit to the community center. Technology, once a source of fascination, had become an alien landscape he was reluctant to explore. He remembered the early days of the internet and smartphones, marveling at how the world had transformed, yet feeling increasingly disconnected from it all. Driving was one of the few freedoms he still held on to, but even that was becoming more challenging as his eyesight dimmed and his reflexes slowed. One afternoon, as he walked down Main Street, Robert noticed a sleek silver car parked near the town square, a Tesla Model S, unmistakably futuristic amidst the rustic storefronts. A small crowd had gathered around it, many of them seniors like himself, eyes wide with curiosity and skepticism. A young woman was explaining the car's autonomous features, demonstrating how it could navigate without human intervention. Robert listened quietly, his mind swirling with questions and doubts. Could he trust a machine to drive him? Would it really be safe? Was this technology meant for people like him, or was it just another reminder that the future belonged to younger generations? Yet, beneath the hesitation, a flicker of something else stirred, a longing for freedom, for connection, for a way to reclaim a life that felt increasingly constrained. That evening, Robert sat in his worn armchair, the image of the self-driving Tesla lingering in his mind. He turned on the television and, by chance, caught a segment featuring Elon Musk discussing the promise of autonomous vehicles. Elon's voice was passionate, filled with a mix of visionary zeal and practical optimism. "Our goal is to create a world where transportation is safe, accessible, and liberating for everyone, regardless of age or ability," Elon said. "It's not just about cars, it's about giving people back their independence and dignity." The words resonated deeply with Robert. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of hope. Maybe this was more than just technology, it was an invitation to redefine what it meant to grow old in America. The next morning, Robert made a decision. He contacted the local Tesla dealership and signed up for a demonstration. The day of the test drive arrived with a mixture of nerves and anticipation. As he settled into the driver's seat, the familiar grip of the steering wheel felt both comforting and strange. The car hummed to life, and with a reassuring voice from the onboard system, it began to navigate the quiet streets on its own. Robert's heart pounded as he watched the scenery glide by, no hands on the wheel, no foot on the pedals. A wave of exhilaration washed over him, mingled with a touch of disbelief. This was freedom in a form he had never imagined, a chance to break free from the physical limitations that had crept into his life. Encouraged by the experience, Robert joined the local chapter of the Autonomy for All club, where he met others who shared his fears and hopes. Among them was Evelyn, whose story of transformation and courage he had read about online, and Jack, whose leadership and resilience inspired the group. Together, they navigated the challenges of embracing new technology, supporting one another through doubts and discoveries. Yet, the journey was not without obstacles. The town's infrastructure was outdated, and regulatory hurdles slowed the expansion of autonomous services. News reports of accidents involving self-driving cars stirred public fear, prompting heated debates in town halls and online forums. Robert found himself at the center of these conversations, advocating for thoughtful integration of technology balanced with safety and transparency. Drawing on Elon Musk's example of relentless innovation coupled with accountability, Robert helped organize community forums where experts addressed concerns and shared progress updates. His steady voice and lived experience brought credibility and calm to discussions often marked by confusion and mistrust. As the months passed, Robert's confidence grew. He began taking autonomous trips to visit old friends, attend local events, and explore neighboring towns, journeys that reignited his sense of adventure and belonging. His children noticed the change, their initial apprehension giving way to admiration and renewed connection. One summer evening, Robert stood at the edge of the town's annual festival, watching fireworks light up the night sky. Surrounded by friends old and new, he reflected on the path that had brought him here, from isolation to community, from fear to empowerment. The self-driving revolution was not just about machines or technology, it was about reclaiming life's possibilities at any age. In his heart, Robert knew this was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for himself but for a generation ready to embrace the future on their own terms. The road ahead was still uncertain, but with courage, support, and innovation, the journey promised to be one of hope, dignity, and freedom. And as the final bursts of light faded into the night, Robert whispered to himself, "I am not too old to change. I am exactly who I need to be." The first chilly breeze of early winter swept through the streets of Maplewood as Helen adjusted the scarf around her neck and stepped outside her modest home. At 68, Helen had always been fiercely independent, a trait forged through years of raising 3 children and managing a small bakery that had been the heart of her community. But the passing of her husband 2 years prior had left a void deeper than any she had imagined, and the bakery's doors had closed with his final breath. The vibrant laughter and warm aromas that once filled her days were replaced by silence and solitude. Helen found herself retreating from the world, her once lively spirit dulled by grief and the creeping fear that her best days were behind her. One afternoon, as she scrolled aimlessly through her tablet, a headline caught her eye: Tesla's self-driving revolution, giving freedom back to seniors. Skeptical yet intrigued, Helen clicked the link and found herself watching a video featuring Elon Musk passionately discussing the company's vision for autonomous vehicles. "Innovation is about breaking barriers," Musk declared. "We're creating technology to help everyone, no matter their age, live boldly and freely." His conviction stirred something dormant within Helen, a flicker of curiosity she hadn't felt in months. Motivated by this newfound spark, Helen decided to attend a local seminar hosted by Tesla in collaboration with the Autonomy for All Club. The room buzzed with a mix of excitement and apprehension as seniors from all walks of life gathered to explore how autonomous vehicles could redefine their futures. Helen listened intently as presenters demonstrated the technology, answering questions with patience and clarity. She was particularly drawn to the stories shared by Evelyn and Jack, both of whom had transformed their lives by embracing this technology, reclaiming independence and forging new connections. Helen's heart raced as she sat behind the wheel of a Tesla Model 3 during the hands-on session. The car's sleek interior and intuitive controls felt both foreign and inviting. As the vehicle navigated the course autonomously, Helen's doubts began to waver. The realization that she might once again venture beyond the confines of her home without relying on others ignited a cautious hope. The transition was neither swift nor easy. Helen grappled with fear of the unknown, of technology failing her, of losing control. There were moments when the weight of grief threatened to pull her back into isolation. Yet, buoyed by the support of the club and inspired by Elon Musk's message of relentless perseverance, she took deliberate steps forward. She scheduled her first autonomous trip to visit her daughter, whom she hadn't seen in months due to distance and emotional distance alike. The day of the trip dawned bright and clear. Helen's hands trembled as she entered the vehicle, but a calm determination settled over her. The car hummed quietly to life, and as it pulled away, Helen felt a rush of liberation. The familiar landscapes passed by, each mile dissolving barriers built by sorrow and fear. Upon arrival, the reunion with her daughter was tearful and healing, rekindling a bond that had frayed under the weight of time and distance. Encouraged, Helen began to explore further, attending community events, visiting old friends, and even considering a return to baking, this time in a community kitchen where she could share her passion without the burdens of ownership. The autonomous vehicle became more than transportation, it was a vessel of transformation, carrying Helen back to a life rich with connection and purpose. Yet, the journey was punctuated by challenges. Public skepticism about autonomous technology intensified following a high-profile accident involving a self-driving car in a neighboring state. Media sensationalism fanned fears, and local authorities imposed temporary restrictions on autonomous vehicle operations. Helen found herself navigating not only physical roads but also the turbulent terrain of public opinion and regulatory uncertainty. Determined to advocate for her community and the future she believed in, Helen joined forces with fellow club members to organize informational sessions and open dialogues. Drawing upon Elon Musk's ethos of transparency and innovation, they invited experts to address concerns candidly, emphasizing safety improvements and the potential for technology to enhance quality of life for seniors. Helen's voice, once quiet and hesitant, grew strong and clear. She shared her personal journey, of loss, fear, and ultimately, renewal. Reminding others that the path to transformation was paved with courage and support. Her advocacy helped shift the narrative, fostering understanding and trust within the community. As spring blossomed, Helen stood on the porch of her home, watching the first flowers bloom. She reflected on the journey that had brought her from the depths of grief to a renewed sense of hope and possibility. The autonomous revolution had not only restored her mobility but had reignited her spirit. She realized that embracing change was not about denying the past but honoring it by living fully in the present and daring to dream again. Helen's story became a beacon for others navigating the complexities of aging in a rapidly evolving world, a testament to resilience, community, and the transformative power of technology guided by human heart. In the quiet of the evening, Helen whispered to herself, I am not defined by what I have lost but by the courage to embrace what lies ahead. And with that affirmation, she stepped forward into a future she was ready to shape, one autonomous mile at a time. In a quiet suburban neighborhood in Oregon, Samuel sat alone in his dimly lit living room, the hum of a failing heater mingling with the distant sound of rain tapping against the windowpane. At 73, Samuel was a man of measured routines and carefully guarded solitude. A retired engineer, he had spent decades designing machines that moved the world forward, yet now felt himself stalled, tethered to a chair by arthritis and fading confidence. His wife, Margaret, had passed several years earlier, and their 2 children, absorbed in busy lives across the country, called sporadically, their voices tinged with concern he neither welcomed nor ignored. Samuel's days were filled with quiet reflection, memories of projects completed, innovations born, and a younger self brimming with ambition. But those memories were increasingly overshadowed by a gnawing sense of obsolescence. The world outside had changed dramatically, the digital revolution, artificial intelligence, and now, autonomous vehicles promising to reshape transportation forever. Yet, for Samuel, these marvels felt distant, even alien, symbols of a future where he feared there was no place for someone like him. One evening, scrolling through news on his tablet, Samuel stumbled upon a live stream of Elon Musk unveiling the latest Tesla model, now fully capable of self-driving on complex urban streets. Musk's vision was bold, a future where transportation was not just automated but accessible to all, empowering independence regardless of age or physical ability. The goal, Musk said with characteristic intensity, is to eliminate barriers and give everyone the freedom to move, explore, and connect, no matter their stage in life. Samuel was skeptical but intrigued. He had spent a lifetime building machines but never imagined relying on one to reclaim his freedom. Yet, Musk's words echoed a truth Samuel had long buried, that fear and limitation were often self-imposed, and that embracing change was the essence of innovation. The next day, Samuel called the local Tesla service center, signing up for an autonomous vehicle demonstration. Arriving at the gleaming showroom, he was greeted by a young technician named Carlos, whose enthusiasm and patience helped ease Samuel's apprehensions. They walked through the vehicle's features, safety protocols, and user-friendly interface, highlighting how the system could accommodate those with mobility challenges and vision impairments. Taking the wheel, albeit tentatively, Samuel felt a mix of excitement and uncertainty. As the car navigated the quiet streets autonomously, his heart pounded with the thrill of freedom mingled with the vulnerability of relinquishing control. But as miles passed without incident, a smile crept across his face, a small victory over doubt. Emboldened, Samuel began integrating autonomous trips into his routine, visiting the park where he had once walked hand in hand with Margaret, attending local lectures, and even joining a book club he had long hesitated to approach. The car became a trusted companion, a bridge reconnecting him with a world he feared slipping away. Yet, the journey was far from smooth. Samuel wrestled with lingering anxieties about safety and the reliability of the technology. Friends and family expressed their own reservations, with some urging caution and others skeptical of his newfound enthusiasm. A local incident involving a malfunction in an autonomous vehicle stirred media frenzy, fueling public fear and prompting temporary regulatory freezes in the region. Rather than retreat, Samuel chose to become an advocate. Drawing on his engineering background and tempered by lived experience, he began volunteering with Autonomy for All, helping to educate seniors about the technology and addressing concerns with clarity and empathy. He collaborated with city officials and Tesla representatives to improve infrastructure and ensure community voices shaped the rollout of autonomous services. His efforts culminated in a town hall meeting where Samuel shared his journey candidly. The fears overcome, the freedom regained, and the potential he saw for seniors everywhere to live more connected, vibrant lives. His testimony was met with nods, questions, and a renewed dialogue about embracing innovation without sacrificing safety or inclusivity. Over time, Samuel's circle expanded. He reconnected with his children, who marveled at his renewed independence and eagerness to explore new horizons. He forged friendships with fellow club members, sharing stories, laughter, and the collective hope of a generation determined not to be sidelined by age. One crisp autumn afternoon, Samuel drove autonomously to a nearby vineyard, a place he had dreamed of visiting but never reached alone. As golden leaves danced in the breeze and sunlight filtered through the trees, he felt a profound sense of peace and possibility. The car's gentle hum blended with the whispers of the past and the promise of the future. Reflecting on his transformation, Samuel recognized that Elon Musk's vision was more than technological, it was deeply human. It challenged assumptions about aging, capability, and the right to self-determination. Through embracing the self-driving revolution, Samuel had rediscovered not only mobility but purpose, connection, and joy. As twilight descended, he sent a message to the Autonomy for All group: "We are not defined by our years but by the courage to drive forward. Here's to the roads yet traveled." The response was immediate and heartfelt, a chorus of voices united by hope. In that moment, Samuel understood that the true revolution was not just in the machines but in the hearts they inspired to keep moving, dreaming, and living fully, no matter the age. The winter morning was crisp and quiet in the small town of Cedar Springs, where Helen had lived her entire life. At 69, she was known to many as the warm-hearted librarian who had spent decades nurturing a love of stories in the community. But beneath her gentle smile was a growing restlessness, a feeling of being left behind by a world racing toward the future. Technology had always been a curiosity for Helen, something she admired from afar but never fully embraced. The rapid advancements, especially in transportation, felt like a realm for younger generations, fast, unpredictable, and often overwhelming. Helen's life had recently shifted in unexpected ways. The death of her husband, Thomas, had left a hollow space in her daily routines. Their children, scattered across the country, were busy with their own lives, leaving Helen with a quiet house and long evenings filled with memories. Driving, once a simple pleasure that connected her to the outside world, had become a source of anxiety as her reflexes slowed and the once familiar road seemed more daunting. Friends had encouraged her to consider assisted transportation options, but the thought of surrendering control was unsettling. One chilly afternoon, while browsing the local newspaper, Helen read about Tesla's latest advancement in fully autonomous vehicles. The article quoted Elon Musk's vision of a future where technology removed barriers for everyone, especially older adults. "Freedom is not just for the young," Musk said. "It's a right for all, and autonomous vehicles are the key to unlocking that freedom again." Helen's curiosity was piqued. Could this technology be the bridge back to independence she longed for? Determined to explore, Helen attended a community event hosted by Tesla and the Autonomy for All initiative. The room was filled with seniors, many sharing her fears and hopes. Presenters demonstrated how self-driving cars worked, emphasizing safety features designed with users like Helen in mind. The highlight was a hands-on session where participants could experience an autonomous ride firsthand. Helen's heart raced as she climbed into the sleek vehicle. The gentle hum of the engine and the soft glow of the dashboard created an atmosphere both futuristic and comforting. As the car navigated the streets without human intervention, Helen felt a mixture of awe and relief. The familiar sights of her town passed by smoothly, and a smile spread across her face, a sign of trust beginning to form. Encouraged by this experience, Helen started small. She scheduled autonomous rides to visit the nearby community center and local markets. Each trip chipped away at her fears, replacing them with excitement and a renewed sense of possibility. The technology was not just a tool, it was a lifeline reconnecting her to the world outside her doorstep. Helen's transformation did not go unnoticed. Her children, initially skeptical, saw the spark return to their mother's eyes. They began planning outings together, using the autonomous vehicle to bridge distances that had once seemed vast. Helen even reconnected with old friends, reigniting bonds that had waned with time and distance. Yet, the journey was not without challenges. A high-profile accident involving an autonomous vehicle in a nearby city stirred public fear and skepticism. Local authorities imposed stricter regulations, slowing the expansion of autonomous services. Helen found herself caught in a wave of uncertainty, grappling with her own doubts and the shifting landscape around her. Rather than retreat, Helen chose to become an advocate. She joined the Autonomy for All leadership team, organizing informational sessions and community forums to address fears and share facts. Drawing inspiration from Elon Musk's blend of bold vision and practical accountability, Helen emphasized transparency and education as keys to acceptance. Her voice grew strong and confident as she shared her story, the loneliness overcome, the fears faced, and the freedom regained. She reminded others that aging was not a barrier but a new frontier, one ripe for exploration and growth. Helen's advocacy helped shift perceptions, turning skepticism into cautious optimism. As the seasons changed, Helen's life blossomed anew. She resumed volunteering at the library, this time leading technology workshops for seniors eager to embrace the future. She explored nearby towns and cultural events, no longer limited by physical or emotional boundaries. The autonomous vehicle became a symbol of possibility, a testament to resilience and the human spirit. One spring evening, Helen sat on her porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. She reflected on the journey that had brought her from isolation to engagement, from fear to empowerment. Elon Musk's vision had sparked a revolution not just in transportation but in hearts and minds. With quiet conviction, Helen whispered, "I am not too old to change. I am ready to live boldly once again." And with that, she stepped into the future, autonomous, connected, and free. The late summer sun cast long shadows over the quiet streets of Pine Valley, where George had lived for nearly 8 decades. At 76, George was a man defined by routine and quiet resilience, a retired mechanic whose hands bore the marks of years spent coaxing life from stubborn engines. His workshop, once a bustling hub of activity, had long since closed, and with it went the steady rhythm that had given his days meaning. Widowed and with children settled far away, George felt the creeping isolation that so many his age knew all too well, a sense that the world had moved on without him. One evening, while flipping through channels, George stumbled upon a documentary about Tesla's self-driving revolution. The program featured Elon Musk speaking passionately about a future where autonomous vehicles would restore freedom and dignity to those who felt sidelined by age or circumstance. Musk's words struck a chord: age should never be a barrier to independence. Technology can and must empower us all. Skeptical but intrigued, George found himself drawn to the idea that a machine could offer him a chance to reclaim the freedom his aging body seemed to deny. The next day, he visited the local Tesla showroom, where a representative patiently explained the technology and its safety features. George's engineer's mind was both critical and curious, questioning every detail but slowly warming to the promise of autonomy. His first ride in a self-driving car was a revelation. As the vehicle smoothly navigated the familiar streets, George felt a rush of exhilaration mixed with cautious hope. Here was a chance to break free from the limitations that had settled around him like dust. Emboldened, George joined the Autonomy for All group, meeting others who shared his fears and dreams. Together, they navigated the challenges of adopting new technology, offering support and encouragement. George began to take autonomous trips to visit old friends, attend community events, and even explore nearby towns he had long wanted to see. Yet, progress was not without setbacks. News of accidents involving autonomous vehicles stoked public fear, and local regulations tightened, threatening to stall the movement. George found himself at the forefront of community advocacy, drawing on his mechanical expertise and newfound passion to educate and reassure others. At a heated town hall meeting, George stood before a skeptical crowd and shared his journey. The loneliness he fought, the independence he regained, and the hope that technology offered. His words, grounded in experience and tempered with honesty, shifted perspectives and sparked renewed dialogue. Through it all, George's family watched with growing admiration. His children, initially doubtful, saw their father transformed, not just physically but emotionally, re-engaged with life and community. The self-driving car became a symbol of renewal, a vessel carrying George toward a future filled with possibility. One crisp autumn day, George took an autonomous trip to the coast, the salty air and crashing waves a balm to his soul. As he stood watching the horizon, he felt a profound sense of peace and purpose. The road ahead was still uncertain, but he was ready to face it with courage and curiosity. Reflecting on his journey, George realized that Elon Musk's vision was more than technology, it was a call to embrace change, defy limitations, and reclaim one's place in the world. He understood now that age was not an end but a new beginning, and that the spirit of innovation was alive in all who dared to move forward. As the sun dipped below the sea, George smiled, whispering to himself, "I am never too old to change. The journey is just beginning." The autumn wind rustled through the amber leaves of Willow Creek, a sleepy town where Martha had spent her entire life. At 71, Martha was known for her quiet strength and the garden she lovingly tended behind her small cottage. But beneath the surface, she wrestled with a growing sense of invisibility. Widowed 5 years earlier, and with her children pursuing careers far away, Martha often found herself caught in the silence of her empty home. Her days, once filled with the laughter of family and the vibrant colors of her garden, now seemed muted and still. Martha's driving had become a source of unease. Once confident behind the wheel, she now found herself hesitant on busy roads, her reflexes dulled by age. The idea of surrendering control was frightening, yet the alternatives felt limiting. Public transportation was sparse, and relying on others chipped away at her independence. She feared that the world was moving too fast, leaving her behind in a place where time felt stagnant. One chilly afternoon, while scrolling through social media, Martha came across a video featuring Elon Musk discussing Tesla's fully autonomous vehicles. Musk spoke passionately about a future where technology empowered individuals, especially seniors, to reclaim freedom and live boldly. "Innovation is not just about machines," Musk said. "It's about breaking down barriers and creating new possibilities for every stage of life." Martha was intrigued but skeptical. Could a car really navigate the complexities of real-world driving without a human hand? Could this technology be a bridge back to independence? The questions lingered as she signed up for a local demonstration hosted by the Autonomy for All group. At the event, Martha was surrounded by faces reflecting the same mixture of hope and apprehension. The Tesla representatives explained the safety features and user-friendly interface designed to accommodate seniors. The highlight was the chance to ride in a fully autonomous vehicle on a closed course. Martha's heart pounded as she settled into the plush seat, her hands resting lightly on the armrests. As the car glided smoothly along the course, expertly navigating turns and stops, Martha felt a thrill she hadn't known in years. The familiar landscapes of her youth seemed to blur with the promise of a future unbound by fear or limitation. The experience ignited a spark, a tentative belief that she might reclaim more than just mobility. Emboldened, Martha began taking short autonomous trips, starting with visits to the nearby community center and local library. Each journey was a step toward rebuilding confidence and connection. The car became more than transportation, it was a symbol of resilience and renewal. However, the road was not without obstacles. News of accidents involving autonomous vehicles stirred fear in her community. Local authorities imposed new regulations that limited autonomous operations, fueling uncertainty. Friends expressed concern, questioning whether the technology was truly safe or just a passing trend. Determined to move forward, Martha joined the Autonomy for All advocacy team, helping to organize forums and informational sessions. Drawing inspiration from Musk's blend of visionary optimism and practical accountability, she emphasized the importance of education and transparency. Martha shared her personal story, of loss, fear, and the courage to embrace change, reminding others that the journey to renewal was possible at any age. Her efforts helped shift the conversation, turning skepticism into cautious optimism. Martha's advocacy fostered a community spirit rooted in hope and shared purpose. She reconnected with neighbors, formed new friendships, and even began teaching gardening workshops, blending her passions with a newfound sense of purpose. One crisp morning, Martha took an autonomous trip to visit her daughter, who lived an hour away. The journey, once daunting, was now a cherished adventure. As the car navigated highways and small-town streets, Martha reflected on the path she had traveled, from isolation to empowerment, from fear to freedom. Arriving at her daughter's home, Martha was greeted with warmth and joy. The visit rekindled bonds and opened doors to new memories. The autonomous vehicle had not only transported her physically but had carried her toward a fuller, richer life. As the sun set over Willow Creek, Martha sat on her porch, the evening breeze stirring the leaves around her. She smiled, a quiet affirmation settling in her heart, "I am not too old to change. I am ready to live boldly, 1 mile at a time." With that, she embraced the future, confident and free. The early morning fog blanketed the streets of Maplewood, a small Midwestern town where David had lived all his 78 years. Once a celebrated high school history teacher, David now found himself navigating a landscape far removed from the vibrant classrooms and lively debates that had filled his days. Retirement had brought quiet moments, but also a creeping sense of invisibility. His once sharp mind wrestled with the reality that the world around him was changing faster than he could keep pace, especially with technology. The rise of autonomous vehicles was just another wave he feared he couldn't ride. David's health had been declining gradually. Arthritis stiffened his hands, and his vision wasn't what it used to be. Driving, which had been his ticket to independence, now felt risky and stressful. His children, living in distant cities, urged him to slow down, even suggesting he give up his car. But David resisted. Driving meant freedom, connection, and a link to the life he cherished. One evening, while watching a news segment on Tesla's new self-driving technology, David heard Elon Musk's voice clearly cut through the screen, "Our mission is to create a future where no one is limited by age or ability. Autonomous vehicles will give people back their freedom. Freedom to live fully, to connect, to explore." The words stirred something deep inside him, a spark of possibility amid the uncertainty. Driven by a mix of curiosity and hope, David signed up for a demonstration of Tesla's autonomous vehicle program at a nearby city center. When the day arrived, he felt a swirl of emotions, excitement, skepticism, and a hint of fear. The sleek car gleamed under the fluorescent lights, and a young technician named Jasmine greeted him warmly, walking him through the vehicle's features and safety systems. David's first autonomous ride was cautious but transformative. As the car smoothly navigated city streets without human input, he felt a rush of freedom mixed with awe. The familiar world outside the window looked new, full of potential rather than limitation. It was as if he was reclaiming a piece of himself long thought lost. Encouraged by this experience, David began to incorporate autonomous trips into his routine. He visited the local library, attended town hall meetings, and even joined a senior hiking group, traveling to trailheads he had avoided before due to driving concerns. The car became his trusted partner, quietly empowering him to reconnect with his passions and community. Yet, challenges remained. A highly publicized autonomous vehicle accident nearby reignited fears in the community. News outlets questioned the technology's readiness, and local regulators imposed stricter oversight, temporarily halting autonomous service expansions. Friends expressed their doubts, and David wrestled with moments of uncertainty. Instead of withdrawing, David chose to engage. He volunteered with Autonomy for All, a grassroots group advocating for safe and accessible autonomous transportation for seniors. Leveraging his teaching skills, he helped develop educational materials and led workshops to demystify the technology for his peers. Drawing inspiration from Musk's fearless vision, David framed the technology not as a threat but as a tool to reclaim autonomy. His efforts culminated in a community forum where he shared his personal journey, the fear, the hope, and the courage to embrace change. His heartfelt testimony resonated, shifting attitudes and opening pathways for dialogue. David became a beacon of possibility, showing that age was not a barrier but an invitation to redefine what independence meant. Over time, David's relationships flourished. His children, initially concerned, marveled at their father's renewed zest for life. He rekindled friendships, formed new connections, and deepened his involvement in community initiatives. The autonomous vehicle was more than transportation, it was a catalyst for transformation. One crisp autumn afternoon, David took an autonomous trip to a historical site he had long dreamed of visiting. Standing amidst the relics of the past, he felt a profound connection, not only to history but to his own unfolding story. The journey was symbolic, embracing the future while honoring the past. Reflecting on his transformation, David realized that Elon Musk's vision had become a personal mantra. It wasn't about technology alone but about the courage to defy limitations, to seek connection, and to live fully at any age. As the sun dipped below the horizon, David smiled, whispering to himself, "It's never too late to change. The road ahead is mine to explore." The afternoon sun filtered through the lace curtains of Millie's cozy living room, casting warm patterns on the faded carpet. At 73, Millie had long felt the weight of quiet days stretching ahead, the bustling world outside seeming more distant with each passing year. Widowhood and the slow drift of friends moving away or falling ill had left her house feeling emptier than ever. Driving, once a symbol of freedom, had become an anxious task she increasingly avoided. The thought of handing over control, even to technology, was foreign and unsettling. But beneath that hesitation, a quiet longing stirred, a hope that life might still hold new chapters. One evening, while browsing the internet, Millie stumbled upon an interview with Elon Musk discussing Tesla's latest advancements in fully autonomous vehicles. His words resonated deeply: "Age and fear should never cage us. Technology exists to break chains, to give us the freedom to live boldly at every stage of life." The idea of regaining independence through innovation felt like a lifeline. Motivated by Musk's vision, Millie attended a local Autonomy for All event, where seniors gathered to learn about self-driving cars. The room buzzed with a mix of excitement and skepticism. Tesla representatives showcased the vehicle's user-friendly features, emphasizing safety and simplicity. The highlight was a hands-on ride, where attendees experienced firsthand the smooth, confident navigation of the autonomous system. Millie's heart pounded as she took her first ride. The car moved effortlessly through streets she knew well, each turn and stop perfectly timed. The usual tension she felt behind the wheel melted away, replaced by a burgeoning trust in the technology. For the first time in years, she glimpsed a future where her independence might be restored. Encouraged, Millie began scheduling autonomous trips, initially short and local. Each ride chipped away at her fears, rekindling a sense of adventure. She visited the farmer's market, reconnected with neighbors, and even joined a book club, the autonomous vehicle ferrying her confidently to new experiences. But progress brought challenges. Reports of autonomous vehicle accidents stirred public anxiety, and new regulations slowed service expansions. Friends voiced concerns, urging caution. Millie wrestled with doubts: was this technology truly safe, or just a gamble? Determined not to retreat, Millie became an advocate. She volunteered with Autonomy for All, helping organize educational workshops and community discussions. Inspired by Musk's blend of bold vision and practical problem-solving, she emphasized transparency, addressing fears openly and honestly. Her story, of loneliness overcome, fear faced, and freedom regained, moved many. Millie's advocacy helped shift perceptions, transforming skepticism into cautious optimism. She built new friendships, strengthened community bonds, and found renewed purpose. One bright spring morning, Millie took an autonomous trip to visit her granddaughter's art exhibit. The journey, once daunting, now felt empowering. Standing among vibrant canvases, Millie realized she was not just a spectator in life but an active participant, reclaiming her narrative. As the day faded, Millie sat on her porch, the gentle breeze carrying the scent of blooming flowers. She smiled, a quiet affirmation blossoming within: "I am never too old to change. The road to freedom is always open." With that, she embraced the future, confident, connected, and free. The crisp morning air filled the kitchen of Jim's modest home in the heart of Franklin, a small town known for its sprawling farmlands and close-knit community. At 72, Jim's hands still held the calluses and strength from decades of working the soil, but his spirit felt wearied by the passing years. Since his wife's passing, days had grown longer and quieter, the hum of tractors and neighborhood chatter fading into the background of his solitude. Driving was becoming a challenge, reflexes slowed, and the roads that once felt like familiar veins now felt unpredictable and intimidating. The thought of giving up his independence gnawed at him. One afternoon, while scrolling through his tablet, Jim came across a news segment about Tesla's fully autonomous vehicles and Elon Musk's vision for a future where age or physical limitations wouldn't rob people of freedom. Musk's words struck a chord: technology isn't just for the young. It's for anyone who refuses to let barriers define them. Jim paused, intrigued and skeptical. Could a self-driving car really offer him a new lease on life? Determined to find out, Jim attended a local Autonomy for All event, joining a group of seniors exploring the promise and pitfalls of autonomous driving. The atmosphere buzzed with a mix of excitement and apprehension as Tesla representatives demonstrated the car's safety features and user-friendly controls. When it was his turn to experience the ride, Jim's heart pounded with anticipation and a touch of fear. The car glided smoothly through the streets of Franklin, navigating turns and stops without hesitation. Jim felt a strange mix of awe and relief. The familiar landscape passed by effortlessly while the car took charge. For the first time in months, a spark ignited within him, a hint of freedom he thought was lost. Encouraged, Jim began scheduling regular autonomous trips. He visited the local farmers market, reconnected with old friends, and attended community events. Each journey rebuilt his confidence and expanded his world. The car was more than transportation, it was a bridge back to life. But challenges loomed. News of a nearby autonomous vehicle accident triggered fears and tighter regulations, threatening to stall progress. Friends expressed concern, and Jim wrestled with doubts. Could he trust the technology completely? Rather than retreat, Jim chose to become a voice of reason and hope. He joined the advocacy team for Autonomy for All, sharing his experiences and helping educate others. Inspired by Elon Musk's relentless pursuit of innovation despite setbacks, Jim emphasized that progress required courage and community support. At a town hall meeting, Jim stood before neighbors and officials, sharing his journey from fear to empowerment. His words resonated, shifting perceptions and fostering dialogue. Jim became a symbol of resilience, a testament that age was not a barrier but a new chapter. With renewed purpose, Jim's relationships deepened. His children, initially hesitant, saw their father's transformation and grew closer. He found joy in mentoring younger farmers and engaging in local initiatives. The autonomous vehicle was no longer just a car, it was a vessel of connection and possibility. One crisp autumn day, Jim took an autonomous trip to a county fair, the sights and sounds rekindling memories and sparking new dreams. Standing amid the vibrant crowds, he felt alive and hopeful, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Reflecting on his journey, Jim understood that Elon Musk's vision was more than technology, it was a call to defy limitations and reclaim independence. As the sun set over Franklin's fields, Jim smiled and whispered, "I'm never too old to change. The road ahead is mine." Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the quiet streets of Cedar Grove, where Helen had lived most of her 80 years. Her small but well-kept house stood as a testament to a life filled with love, loss, and resilience. Since her husband's passing a decade earlier, Helen had wrestled with loneliness that seeped into every corner of her world. Driving had once been a source of freedom, but recent months had seen her hand tremble behind the wheel, and her confidence wane. The thought of giving up driving felt like surrendering a piece of herself. One evening, while scrolling through her tablet, Helen stumbled upon an interview with Elon Musk. He spoke about Tesla's vision for a fully autonomous America, a future where no one, regardless of age, would be left behind. Technology is about empowering lives, Musk said. It's about giving people the freedom to live on their own terms, at every stage of life. Helen felt a flicker of hope amid her doubts. Could this be the key to reclaiming her independence? Motivated, she signed up for a demonstration of Tesla's self-driving technology through the local Autonomy for All program. At the event, Helen joined others her age, all sharing the same mixture of curiosity and caution. Tesla representatives explained the system's safety features, and the group took turns riding in the autonomous vehicles. Helen's first ride was both exhilarating and reassuring. The car navigated familiar streets with precision and care, allowing her to relax and enjoy the ride for the first time in years. Emboldened by the experience, Helen began using autonomous vehicles for short trips, to the grocery store, the library, and community center. Each journey was a step toward regaining confidence and connection. The car became more than transportation, it symbolized a bridge to a fuller life. Yet, Helen faced challenges. News of accidents involving autonomous vehicles caused anxiety, and local regulations tightened, limiting service availability. Friends and neighbors voiced concerns, questioning the technology's reliability. Helen wrestled with fear and uncertainty but remained determined. She joined the Autonomy for All advocacy group, helping educate her community about the technology's benefits and risks. Inspired by Musk's blend of innovation and tenacity, Helen emphasized transparency and safety, encouraging open dialogue. Her heartfelt story of overcoming fear and isolation resonated deeply. Helen's advocacy helped shift community attitudes, fostering understanding and support. She reconnected with old friends and made new ones, her social circle expanding alongside her newfound mobility. One crisp spring day, Helen took an autonomous trip to visit her granddaughter's school play. The experience was joyful and empowering. Watching her granddaughter perform, Helen felt a profound connection to the future, both hers and the generations to come. As dusk settled over Cedar Grove, Helen sat on her porch, the evening air filled with the scent of blooming lilacs. She smiled, a quiet affirmation in her heart, I am never too old to change. Independence is a gift I will cherish every day. With renewed purpose, Helen embraced the path ahead, confident, connected, and free. The sun dipped low over the rolling hills of Pine Ridge, casting long shadows across the quiet streets where Walter had lived for nearly 8 decades. His small ranch-style home, surrounded by towering pines and wildflowers, had been a sanctuary through years marked by joy and hardship. But lately, Walter felt the heavy weight of isolation pressing in. Since retiring, his daily routines had shrunk to the essentials, and the freedom once taken for granted, the ability to drive to town or visit friends, had begun slipping away. His hands, once steady, now trembled slightly, and his reflexes slowed. Driving, once a source of pride, had become a source of anxiety. Walter's daughter, Megan, who lived several states away, had urged him to consider alternatives. "Dad, it's okay to ask for help," she often said, worried about his safety. But Walter resisted. For him, driving was more than transportation, it was a symbol of independence, a link to a life he had built with his own hands. One chilly morning, while reading the newspaper over coffee, Walter's attention was captured by an article about Tesla's fully autonomous vehicles. The headline promised a future where age and physical limitations wouldn't dictate freedom. Elon Musk's vision was front and center, our goal is a society where technology enables everyone to live boldly, regardless of age or ability. Walter was intrigued but skeptical. Could a machine truly navigate the unpredictable roads of Pine Ridge? The thought both excited and unsettled him. Yet, the possibility that technology could restore his independence sparked a flicker of hope. Encouraged by Megan, Walter attended a nearby Autonomy for All event, designed to introduce seniors to self-driving technology. The room buzzed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Tesla representatives demonstrated the vehicle's intuitive controls, safety features, and the ease of use tailored specifically for older adults. Walter's first ride was a revelation. As the car glided smoothly through familiar streets, expertly handling stops, turns, and pedestrians, he felt a surge of freedom unlike anything he had experienced in years. The tension that had gripped him behind the wheel melted away, replaced by a sense of trust and possibility. With each autonomous trip, Walter's confidence grew. He revisited old haunts, the local diner, the post office, the park bench where he and his late wife had shared countless sunsets. The car was more than a machine, it was a vessel carrying him back to a life rich with connection and purpose. But the road ahead was not without obstacles. News reports of autonomous vehicle accidents stirred fear in the community. New regulations temporarily restricted autonomous vehicle operations, and some neighbors expressed doubt and concern. Walter grappled with these challenges, wondering if the promise of technology could truly overcome societal skepticism. Refusing to retreat, Walter became an advocate for autonomous mobility. Inspired by Musk's relentless drive and vision, he joined the Autonomy for All leadership team, organizing educational sessions and community forums. Walter shared his journey, his fears, his triumphs, and the renewed sense of agency technology had granted him. At a town meeting, Walter spoke candidly about the importance of embracing innovation while demanding rigorous safety standards. His words resonated, helping to shift perceptions and foster a more informed, hopeful community outlook. Walter's relationships deepened as well. Megan, initially worried, now celebrated her father's renewed independence and zest for life. Old friends marveled at his transformation, and new friendships blossomed through shared advocacy efforts. One golden autumn afternoon, Walter took an autonomous trip to visit his granddaughter's college campus. Walking through the bustling grounds, he felt a profound connection, not only to family but to the future unfolding around him. As twilight settled over Pine Ridge, Walter sat on his porch, the scent of pine and earth filling the air. He smiled, a quiet affirmation rising within, "I am never too old to change. The road ahead is mine to explore." With that, he embraced the promise of tomorrow, confident, connected, and free. The first crisp breeze of autumn swept through the streets of Willow Creek, rustling the amber leaves that carpeted the sidewalks. Margaret sat in her favorite chair by the window, watching the world outside move with a vitality she felt slipping farther from her grasp. At 76, she was no stranger to change. Widowed 5 years earlier, her days had become a quiet rhythm of solitude and small routines. Driving, once an act of independence and joy, now brought anxiety and uncertainty. The prospect of surrendering the car keys loomed like an unavoidable crossroads. One evening, a late-night television interview caught her attention, Elon Musk, speaking passionately about Tesla's fully autonomous vehicles and their potential to transform lives. "We're building a future where no one is left behind because of age or physical ability," Musk said. "Freedom isn't about age, it's about choice." Margaret felt a stirring deep inside, a whisper of possibility amid the growing shadows of doubt. Encouraged by this newfound hope, Margaret attended a Drive Forward workshop hosted by her local community center, where Tesla representatives introduced seniors to autonomous vehicle technology. The room buzzed with a mix of skepticism and curiosity as attendees learned about safety features, user controls, and the simple interface designed with older adults in mind. Margaret's first autonomous ride was a revelation. As the vehicle navigated smoothly through familiar streets, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. The tension that had gripped her whenever she got behind the wheel melted away, replaced by a sense of peace and trust. For the first time in years, she glimpsed a future where her independence might be reclaimed. Gradually, Margaret began incorporating autonomous trips into her weekly routine. She visited the farmer's market, reconnected with friends for lunch, and even attended a poetry reading downtown. Each journey expanded her world, chipping away at the walls of isolation. Yet, the path was not without obstacles. Local news coverage of autonomous vehicle mishaps stirred fear among her neighbors. Stricter regulations paused service expansions, and whispers of doubt grew louder. Friends expressed concern, questioning whether the technology was safe enough. Determined not to let fear dictate her life, Margaret joined Drive Forward, a grassroots advocacy group promoting autonomous transportation for seniors. Drawing inspiration from Musk's bold vision and refusal to accept limitations, she helped organize informational sessions and shared her personal journey, emphasizing both the technology's promise and the need for caution. Margaret's honest storytelling touched many hearts, gradually shifting community attitudes. She found strength in the friendships forged through shared purpose, and her confidence blossomed alongside her expanding horizons. One radiant spring morning, Margaret took an autonomous trip to visit her granddaughter's art studio. Standing among vibrant canvases and creative energy, she felt a renewed connection to life's possibilities. The autonomous vehicle was no longer just a means of transport, it was a symbol of empowerment and hope. As the sun set behind the hills of Willow Creek, Margaret sat on her porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of blooming lilacs. She smiled softly, whispering to herself, "I am never too old to change. The journey ahead is mine to embrace." With that quiet declaration, she stepped fully into a future rich with freedom, connection, and endless possibility. The soft glow of dawn filtered through the curtains of George's modest apartment in Cedar Falls, casting gentle light on the worn photographs lining the mantel. At 78, George was a man shaped by decades of hard work, family devotion, and quiet resilience. Since retiring from his job as a machinist, life had settled into a predictable routine. The car he once relied on felt less like a tool of freedom and more like a source of anxiety. His reflexes slowed, and each drive brought a gnawing fear of losing control. Friends had warned him to consider alternatives, but George clung stubbornly to the independence that driving gave him. One morning, while browsing the evening news online, George paused on a segment about Tesla's fully autonomous vehicles. Elon Musk, the visionary behind the technology, spoke passionately about a future where freedom wouldn't be limited by age or ability. "Autonomy is about more than technology," Musk said. "It's about restoring dignity and choice for everyone, no matter where they are in life." The idea stirred something deep inside George, a flicker of hope mingled with apprehension. Could this be the key to reclaiming his independence without the fear that had begun to shadow every trip? Encouraged by his daughter Linda, who lived nearby, George attended a Drive Forward seminar at the community center. The room was filled with seniors curious yet cautious about the promise of self-driving cars. Tesla representatives explained the safety protocols, the user-friendly interface, and the company's commitment to rigorous testing. When it was George's turn to take the autonomous vehicle for a test ride, his heart raced. As the car glided smoothly through Cedar Falls' familiar streets, expertly handling traffic signals and pedestrians, George felt an unexpected calm. The tension that had gripped him behind the wheel dissolved, replaced by a sense of trust and possibility. For the first time in months, he glimpsed a future where driving no longer meant fear. With each autonomous journey, George's confidence grew. He visited the local diner for breakfast, stopped by the library, and even attended his grandson's football game, the car navigating safely and effortlessly. The vehicle was more than transportation, it was a lifeline reconnecting him to the world and the people he loved. But challenges arose. News of autonomous vehicle accidents in other states stirred fear and skepticism among his neighbors. Stricter regulations delayed service expansions, and some friends questioned whether the technology was ready. George wrestled with doubt but refused to let fear dictate his life. Drawing inspiration from Musk's relentless pursuit of progress despite setbacks, George became an advocate for autonomous mobility. He volunteered with Drive Forward, sharing his experiences and encouraging others to explore the possibilities. At community meetings, he spoke candidly about the blend of hope and caution necessary to embrace new technology safely. His efforts helped shift local perceptions. Friends who had doubted began asking questions, seeking rides, and attending workshops. George's relationships deepened as he found a renewed sense of purpose and connection. One crisp fall afternoon, George took an autonomous trip to visit his wife's grave, a moment of reflection and healing. Standing by the headstone, he whispered a promise to embrace the future she would have wanted for him. As twilight settled over Cedar Falls, George sat on his porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of pine and earth. He smiled quietly, a profound truth settling in his heart: I am never too old to change. Every mile forward is a victory. With that, George embraced the road ahead, steady, hopeful, and free. The late morning sun filtered softly through the worn blinds of Ruth's quaint apartment in Maplewood, casting a gentle warmth over the stacks of books and framed photographs that chronicled a life well lived. At 79, Ruth often felt the world moving faster than she could keep pace. The independence she cherished was slipping away, especially when it came to driving. Her hands, once steady and sure, now trembled slightly, and the familiar routes she once navigated effortlessly felt daunting. Giving up her car keys seemed like surrendering a vital piece of herself. One afternoon, while scrolling through her tablet, Ruth came across a documentary featuring Elon Musk discussing Tesla's self-driving revolution. His words echoed with hope and possibility: technology exists to break down barriers, to empower people to live boldly, regardless of age or circumstance. Ruth's heart stirred with a mixture of curiosity and cautious optimism. Could this technology offer her a new kind of freedom? Inspired, Ruth attended a local Autonomy for All event at the community center, joining others her age who shared similar fears and hopes. Tesla representatives demonstrated the autonomous vehicle's safety features and simplicity, easing many concerns. Ruth's first ride in an autonomous car was both exhilarating and reassuring. The car handled turns, stops, and traffic signals flawlessly, allowing her to relax and enjoy the journey instead of gripping the wheel in tension. With growing confidence, Ruth began scheduling autonomous trips, visiting the library, meeting friends for coffee, and attending her granddaughter's piano recitals. Each ride chipped away at her anxiety and isolation, rekindling a sense of independence she thought lost. However, challenges persisted. News of autonomous vehicle incidents stirred skepticism among her community. Stricter regulations limited service availability, and some friends cautioned her to be careful. Ruth wrestled with doubt but refused to retreat. Determined to be part of the solution, Ruth joined Autonomy Advocates, a grassroots group promoting safe adoption of self-driving technology for seniors. Drawing strength from Musk's fearless pursuit of innovation, she shared her story, emphasizing the blend of hope and caution needed for meaningful progress. Ruth's honesty and passion resonated, helping shift local attitudes and foster a supportive network. She found new friendships and deepened existing ones, her social world expanding alongside her newfound mobility. One crisp spring morning, Ruth took an autonomous trip to a nearby botanical garden, immersing herself in blooming colors and fragrant blossoms. The experience filled her with renewed joy and a profound sense of connection to life's beauty. As evening settled over Maplewood, Ruth sat on her porch, the gentle breeze carrying the scent of fresh flowers. She smiled softly, a quiet affirmation blooming within: I am never too old to change. The road ahead is bright and full of promise. Embracing the future with hope and courage, Ruth stepped confidently into her next chapter, free, empowered, and alive. The golden light of late afternoon poured into Samuel's living room, casting long shadows across the familiar but faded furniture. At 80 years old, Samuel had witnessed a lifetime of change, from the bustling factories where he worked for decades to the quiet solitude that now filled his days. Driving, once a symbol of his independence and pride, had become a source of unease. His reflexes slowed, and the roads that had been his domain felt more unpredictable with each passing month. The idea of handing over the keys had loomed for years, but the loss felt like giving up a part of his identity. One evening, while scrolling through his tablet, Samuel stopped on an article about Tesla's latest strides in autonomous driving technology. Elon Musk's vision of a fully autonomous America, where technology could restore freedom and independence to all, regardless of age, resonated deeply. "We're not just building cars, we're building possibilities," Musk had said. Samuel wondered if these words could hold true for him. Motivated by curiosity and a flicker of hope, Samuel attended a community event showcasing Tesla's autonomous vehicles. Surrounded by peers sharing similar doubts and fears, he listened as Tesla representatives outlined safety protocols, user-friendly controls, and the promise of a future unbound by physical limitations. Samuel's first autonomous ride was a revelation. As the vehicle navigated smoothly through his neighborhood, handling traffic and pedestrians with ease, a sense of calm replaced the tension he usually felt behind the wheel. For the first time in years, Samuel glimpsed a future where independence was possible without the fear of losing control. Encouraged, Samuel incorporated autonomous trips into his routine. He visited the local diner, reconnected with old friends, and attended church services, all made possible by the technology. The vehicle became more than transportation, it was a bridge back to community and purpose. Yet, challenges emerged. Reports of autonomous vehicle accidents elsewhere sparked anxiety. Stricter regulations slowed progress, and some neighbors questioned the technology's readiness. Samuel grappled with these doubts but refused to let fear dictate his choices. Inspired by Musk's resilience and vision, Samuel became an advocate for autonomous mobility. He joined Drive Forward, a grassroots group promoting safe adoption of self-driving technology among seniors. At town hall meetings, he shared his experiences and emphasized the balance of hope and caution necessary for progress. Samuel's advocacy helped shift local perceptions. Friends who had once doubted began exploring autonomous options, and community support grew. His relationships deepened as he found renewed purpose and connection. One brisk autumn day, Samuel took an autonomous trip to visit the Veterans Memorial, a place of reflection and honor. Standing among the solemn stones, he felt gratitude for both his past and the possibilities ahead. As twilight settled over Cedar Falls, Samuel sat on his porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of pine and earth. He smiled quietly, a profound truth settling within: I am never too old to change. Every journey forward is a triumph. Embracing the road ahead with hope and courage, Samuel stepped confidently into a future of freedom and connection. The morning sun filtered softly through the lace curtains of Clara's modest bungalow in Elmwood, casting warm patterns on the faded quilt that covered her favorite armchair. At 74, Clara felt the steady pull of time, its weight settling into her bones and quieting the rhythms of her once bustling life. Driving, which had long symbolized her independence and self-reliance, was now a source of anxiety. Each trip behind the wheel felt riskier, her confidence waning with every passing mile. The idea of giving up her car felt like surrendering a part of her soul. One afternoon, while browsing the local news website, Clara paused on a feature about Tesla's push toward a fully autonomous America. Elon Musk's vision of a future where no one was held back by age or ability struck a chord. "We're not just innovating technology," Musk said, "we're creating freedom for everyone, no matter their stage of life." Clara felt a spark of hope, a whisper that maybe this technology could restore a measure of her independence. Encouraged by this possibility, Clara attended a Drive Forward demonstration at the community center. The room was filled with seniors like herself, grappling with fears and hopes about the future of driving. Tesla representatives detailed the safety features, the ease of use, and the company's commitment to rigorous testing. When Clara took her first autonomous ride, the car's smooth, confident navigation of familiar streets eased her fears and opened a window to new possibilities. Slowly, Clara began to rely on autonomous trips. She visited the local market, reconnected with friends for coffee, and attended church services she hadn't been to in years. Each journey rekindled her confidence and widened the circle of her world. But the road wasn't without bumps. News reports of autonomous vehicle accidents sparked concern, and local regulations tightened, limiting service availability. Some friends questioned whether the technology was ready for widespread use. Clara wrestled with uncertainty but refused to let fear hold her back. Drawing strength from Musk's bold vision and relentless innovation, Clara joined Drive Forward, an advocacy group promoting autonomous mobility for seniors. She shared her journey openly, emphasizing the balance of hope and caution needed to embrace new technology safely. Her heartfelt story resonated, inspiring others to consider the possibilities. Clara's efforts helped shift community perceptions, fostering dialogue and understanding. She found new friendships and deepened old ones, her social life blooming alongside her renewed independence. One crisp fall morning, Clara took an autonomous trip to a nearby art gallery, immersing herself in color and creativity. The experience filled her with joy and a renewed sense of connection to life's beauty. As dusk settled over Elmwood, Clara sat on her porch, the scent of wood smoke and pine filling the air. She smiled softly, a quiet affirmation blooming within, "I am never too old to change. The journey ahead is mine to embrace." With that, Clara stepped confidently into a future rich with freedom, purpose, and hope. The late afternoon sun cast a warm amber glow over the quiet streets of Oak Ridge, where Helen lived alone in her small but cozy ranch-style home. At 78, she carried the weight of years etched into the lines of her face and the softness of her once strong hands. Driving had been a constant companion throughout her life, a symbol of freedom, of independence, of the ability to explore beyond the boundaries of her small town. But now, the simple act of getting behind the wheel felt fraught with uncertainty and fear. Her reflexes weren't what they used to be, and the road seemed less forgiving with each passing day. The idea of surrendering her car keys felt like losing a piece of herself. One evening, while watching a televised interview, Helen heard Elon Musk speak about Tesla's vision for a fully autonomous America. His voice was steady and passionate as he described a future where technology could bridge the gap between age and independence. "We're building more than cars," Musk said. "We're creating freedom for everyone, regardless of their age or physical abilities." Helen felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Could this be the answer she had been searching for? Encouraged by this spark, Helen attended a "Drive Forward" event at the local community center, where Tesla representatives introduced seniors to the promise and safety of self-driving vehicles. The room buzzed with a mix of excitement and skepticism as attendees learned about the technology's rigorous safety features and user-friendly design. When Helen's turn came to experience a ride, her heart pounded with a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. As the autonomous vehicle glided effortlessly through Oak Ridge's familiar streets, expertly handling intersections and traffic, Helen felt a wave of relief wash over her. The usual tension that gripped her behind the wheel melted away, replaced by a calm she hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long time, she saw a path forward, one where freedom was not dictated by age or physical limitations. Over the following weeks, Helen integrated autonomous trips into her life. She visited the town's farmers market, reconnected with old friends over coffee, and attended church services she had missed for years. Each journey rekindled a sense of agency and connection that had been fading. Yet, challenges emerged. News reports of autonomous vehicle accidents elsewhere stirred fear and doubt among her neighbors. Local regulations tightened, limiting service availability, and some friends questioned whether the technology was ready. Helen wrestled with these concerns but refused to let fear govern her choices. Drawing inspiration from Musk's fearless pursuit of innovation despite setbacks, Helen joined Drive Forward, a grassroots advocacy group promoting safe adoption of autonomous technology for seniors. She shared her story candidly, emphasizing the delicate balance between hope and caution needed to navigate this new frontier. Her openness helped shift community perceptions, fostering dialogue and understanding. Helen's relationships deepened as she found renewed purpose through advocacy and connection. Friends who had once doubted began exploring autonomous options, attending workshops, and embracing the possibilities. One crisp autumn afternoon, Helen took an autonomous trip to visit the local library, immersing herself in the familiar comfort of books and quiet reflection. The experience filled her with joy and a profound sense of belonging. As twilight settled over Oak Ridge, Helen sat on her porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of fallen leaves and pine. She smiled softly, a quiet affirmation blooming within her heart, "I am never too old to change. The road ahead is mine to travel." With that, Helen stepped confidently into a future rich with freedom, connection, and hope. The golden hues of early evening bathed the quiet streets of Franklin as Walter eased into his favorite armchair by the window. At 75, Walter had spent most of his life working as a mechanic, his hands skilled at understanding machines and their quirks. Driving had been second nature, a source of pride and independence. But lately, the challenges of aging, slower reflexes, dimming eyesight, had turned the open road into a source of anxiety. His family gently urged him to consider alternatives, but the thought of giving up the wheel felt like losing a part of his identity. One night, while catching a late news segment, Walter listened as Elon Musk spoke passionately about Tesla's autonomous driving technology, envisioning a future where freedom on the road would be accessible to everyone, regardless of age or ability. Autonomy means choice, Musk said. It means empowerment beyond physical limitations. Walter felt a flicker of curiosity and hope. Could this technology offer a new kind of independence for him? Encouraged by this possibility, Walter attended a Drive Forward workshop hosted at the local senior center. The room was filled with men and women grappling with the same fears and hopes, skepticism mingled with cautious optimism. Tesla representatives explained the safety features, the simplicity of the controls, and the rigorous testing behind the technology. When Walter took his first autonomous ride, the experience was both thrilling and reassuring. The car navigated the familiar streets effortlessly, allowing Walter to relax in a way he hadn't in years. Gradually, Walter incorporated autonomous trips into his life. He visited the hardware store, reconnected with old friends over lunch, and even attended his grandson's baseball games, all without the stress and fear that had shadowed his driving. The vehicle became more than transportation, it was a lifeline reconnecting him to community and purpose. Yet, challenges surfaced. News reports of autonomous vehicle accidents sparked fear among neighbors, and regulatory hurdles slowed service expansion. Some friends expressed doubts about the technology's readiness. Walter wrestled with these concerns but refused to let fear dictate his future. Inspired by Musk's relentless drive and refusal to accept limitations, Walter became an advocate for autonomous mobility. He joined Drive Forward, sharing his story and encouraging others to embrace the possibilities while staying informed and cautious. His honesty and passion helped shift local perceptions, fostering support and dialogue. Walter's relationships deepened as he found renewed purpose and connection through advocacy. Friends who had once been skeptical began exploring autonomous options, attending workshops, and embracing the technology. One crisp autumn afternoon, Walter took an autonomous trip to visit the local Veterans Memorial, a place of reflection and honor. Standing among the solemn stones, he felt gratitude for the past and hope for the future. As dusk settled over Franklin, Walter sat on his porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of wood smoke and earth. He smiled quietly, a profound truth settling in his heart: I am never too old to change. Every mile forward is a victory. Embracing the road ahead with courage and hope, Walter stepped confidently into a future of freedom and connection. The early morning light filtered softly through the dusty windows of Martha's farmhouse in rural Lancaster, illuminating the faded wallpaper and the worn wooden floors that had witnessed decades of family gatherings, laughter, and quiet moments. At 76, Martha often felt caught between the past she cherished and the uncertain future ahead. Driving her old pickup truck had been a daily ritual, a symbol of independence and self-reliance. But as her eyesight dimmed and her reflexes slowed, the once familiar roads became sources of anxiety and hesitation. The thought of handing over the keys felt like relinquishing a lifeline. One evening, while scrolling through the local news app, Martha came across a feature on Tesla's autonomous vehicle technology. Elon Musk's vision of a future where freedom on the road wasn't limited by age or physical ability resonated deeply. Autonomy is about restoring choice, Musk had said. It's about giving everyone the power to move freely, safely, and confidently. Martha felt a spark of hope ignite within her, a whisper that perhaps this technology could reclaim the independence she feared losing. Encouraged by this possibility, Martha attended a Drive Forward event at the nearby community hall, joining a group of seniors navigating similar fears and hopes. Tesla representatives explained the advanced safety features, user-friendly interfaces, and the extensive testing ensuring reliability. When Martha took her first autonomous ride, the vehicle's smooth, confident handling of the winding country roads eased her worries and opened a window to new possibilities. Gradually, Martha began incorporating autonomous trips into her routine. She visited the farmer's market, reconnected with old friends over coffee, and attended church services she had missed for years. Each journey rekindled a sense of freedom and connection that had been slipping away. Yet, challenges surfaced. News of autonomous vehicle accidents elsewhere stirred fear and skepticism in her community. Local regulations slowed service expansion, and some friends questioned whether the technology was ready. Martha wrestled with these doubts but refused to let fear govern her decisions. Drawing inspiration from Musk's bold vision and persistent innovation, Martha joined Drive Forward, a grassroots advocacy group promoting safe adoption of autonomous mobility for seniors. She shared her experiences candidly, emphasizing the balance of hope and caution necessary for meaningful progress. Her heartfelt story inspired others to explore the possibilities. Martha's relationships deepened as she found renewed purpose through advocacy and connection. Friends who had once been hesitant began attending workshops and embracing the technology's potential. One crisp autumn morning, Martha took an autonomous trip to a nearby botanical garden, immersing herself in the vibrant colors and fragrant blossoms. The experience filled her with joy and a profound sense of belonging. As dusk settled over Lancaster, Martha sat on her porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of fallen leaves and pine. She smiled softly, a quiet affirmation blooming within her heart. I am never too old to change. The road ahead is mine to travel. With that, Martha stepped confidently into a future rich with freedom, purpose, and hope. The fading light of late afternoon spilled gently across James's cluttered workshop in a small town outside Nashville, where he had spent decades repairing engines and crafting furniture with calloused hands and a heart full of pride. Now 72, James felt the slow but relentless tug of time, aches in his joints, blurred vision, and a mounting unease every time he got behind the wheel of his old truck. Driving, once his daily ritual and symbol of independence, had become a source of stress and fear. The thought of giving up control felt like admitting defeat. One evening, as James flipped through channels, he stopped on a documentary featuring Elon Musk discussing Tesla's vision for a fully autonomous America. Musk's words resonated deeply. We are creating technology that empowers people to reclaim their freedom, regardless of age or ability. It's not about surrender, it's about evolution. James felt a spark of curiosity and hope flicker within. Could this new technology offer him a way to keep moving forward? Motivated, James attended a local Drive Forward event, joining other seniors exploring the promise and pitfalls of self-driving cars. Tesla representatives detailed the rigorous safety measures, the intuitive controls, and the potential for autonomy to restore mobility to those who feared losing it. When James's turn came to take an autonomous ride, he gripped the armrest tightly, nerves mingling with excitement. The car navigated smoothly through familiar streets, handling stops and turns with quiet confidence. James felt a wave of relief wash over him. This was different from anything he had experienced. The usual tension behind the wheel lifted, replaced by calm and even joy. For the first time in years, he imagined a future where age would not dictate his freedom. Encouraged, James began to rely on autonomous trips. He visited the hardware store, reconnected with old friends, and attended local church gatherings. Each ride chipped away at his anxiety and isolation, opening doors to community and purpose. But challenges arose. News of autonomous vehicle incidents sparked fear among neighbors. Regulatory barriers limited service availability, and some friends doubted the technology's readiness. James wrestled with these concerns but refused to let fear hold him back. Inspired by Musk's relentless innovation and refusal to accept limitations, James joined Drive Forward, a grassroots group advocating for safe adoption of autonomous mobility among seniors. He shared his story openly, emphasizing the balance of hope and caution needed to navigate this new landscape. His honesty and passion helped shift local perceptions, fostering dialogue and support. James's relationships deepened as he found renewed purpose and connection through advocacy. Friends who had once been skeptical began exploring autonomous options, attending workshops, and embracing the possibilities. One crisp fall afternoon, James took an autonomous trip to visit the town's Veterans Memorial, a place of quiet reflection. Standing among the stones, he felt gratitude for the past and hope for the future. As dusk settled over his workshop, James sat on the porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of pine and earth. He smiled quietly, a profound truth settling within: I am never too old to change. Every mile forward is a victory. Embracing the road ahead with courage and hope, James stepped confidently into a future of freedom and connection. The soft hum of the early morning stirred Lucy awake as sunlight filtered through her bedroom window in suburban Charleston. At 79, Lucy's world had quietly contracted over the years, from bustling family gatherings to the solitary routines of her days. Driving her compact sedan had long been her key to independence, a way to navigate errands, visits, and the freedom of the open road. But lately, the simple act of getting behind the wheel had become daunting, her confidence shaken by slower reflexes and mounting caution. The prospect of surrendering her car keys felt like closing a chapter she wasn't ready to end. One evening, as Lucy browsed her tablet, she stumbled upon a feature about Tesla's self-driving revolution. Elon Musk's vision of a future where technology breaks barriers and restores independence resonated deeply. Autonomy isn't just about machines, Musk had said, it's about empowering lives, especially those society often sidelines. A flicker of hope ignited within Lucy, a whisper that maybe, just maybe, she could reclaim her freedom in a new way. Driven by this hope, Lucy attended a Drive Forward demonstration at the local senior center, joining others navigating the same fears and aspirations. Tesla representatives shared insights into the safety protocols, user-friendly interfaces, and rigorous testing that underpin the autonomous vehicles. When Lucy experienced her first self-driving ride, the car's smooth navigation through familiar streets eased her anxieties and opened a window to possibility. Gradually, Lucy incorporated autonomous trips into her routine. She visited the farmer's market, reconnected with old friends for lunch, and attended church services she'd long missed. Each journey rekindled a sense of freedom and connection that had been quietly fading. Challenges surfaced, news of autonomous vehicle accidents sparked doubt among neighbors, regulations limited service access, and some friends questioned the technology's readiness. Lucy wrestled with these fears but refused to let them dictate her future. Inspired by Musk's relentless innovation and refusal to accept limitations, Lucy joined Drive Forward, a grassroots advocacy group promoting safe adoption of autonomous mobility for seniors. She shared her story candidly, emphasizing the balance of hope and caution essential for progress. Her openness inspired others to explore new possibilities. Lucy's relationships deepened as she found renewed purpose through advocacy and connection. Friends who had been hesitant began attending workshops and embracing the technology's potential. One crisp autumn morning, Lucy took an autonomous trip to a nearby art museum, immersing herself in colors and stories that stirred her soul. The experience filled her with joy and a profound sense of belonging. As twilight settled over Charleston, Lucy sat on her porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of jasmine and sea salt. She smiled softly, a quiet affirmation blooming within her heart: I am never too old to change. The road ahead is mine to travel. With that, Lucy stepped confidently into a future rich with freedom, purpose, and hope. The late afternoon sunlight spilled across Henry's small apartment in Boise, casting long shadows on the worn carpet and walls lined with framed photographs of a life well lived. At 77, Henry found himself at a crossroads. Driving, once a symbol of his independence and adventure, had become a source of unease. His doctor's warning to take it easy echoed in his mind, and the growing hesitation each time he gripped the steering wheel felt like an invisible weight pulling him down. The prospect of giving up the keys was more than a practical concern, it felt like losing a vital thread to his sense of self. One evening, as Henry watched a documentary on emerging technologies, he was captivated by Elon Musk's vision for a fully autonomous America. Musk spoke with unwavering conviction about how self-driving cars could transform lives, especially for those whose abilities were changing with age. Technology is about expanding freedom, not limiting it, Musk said. Henry felt a flicker of hope spark inside, a possibility that technology could help him reclaim control over his life. With cautious optimism, Henry attended a Drive Forward event at the local community center, joining others facing similar fears and hopes. Tesla representatives outlined the safety features, the user-friendly design, and the extensive testing behind the autonomous vehicles. When Henry took his first self-driving ride, the car glided effortlessly through Boise's streets, handling turns and stops with quiet precision. For the first time in a long time, Henry felt a wave of relief and possibility wash over him. Gradually, Henry began incorporating autonomous trips into his routine. He visited the farmer's market, reconnected with old friends, and even ventured to the library he hadn't been to in years. Each journey rekindled a sense of purpose and connection that had been fading. Yet challenges remained. News reports of autonomous vehicle incidents stirred fear in his community, and regulatory hurdles limited service availability. Some friends doubted the technology's readiness. Henry wrestled with these doubts but refused to let fear dictate his future. Inspired by Musk's relentless drive and refusal to accept limitations, Henry joined Drive Forward, a grassroots advocacy group promoting safe adoption of autonomous mobility for seniors. He shared his story openly, emphasizing the balance of hope and caution necessary for meaningful progress. His honesty and passion helped shift local perceptions, fostering dialogue and support. Henry's relationships deepened as he found renewed purpose and connection through advocacy. Friends who had once been skeptical began exploring autonomous options, attending workshops, and embracing the possibilities. One crisp autumn afternoon, Henry took an autonomous trip to visit a nearby veterans memorial, a place of quiet reflection. Standing among the stones, he felt gratitude for the past and hope for the future. As dusk settled over Boise, Henry sat on his porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of pine and earth. He smiled quietly, a profound truth settling within: I am never too old to change. Every mile forward is a victory. Embracing the road ahead with courage and hope, Henry stepped confidently into a future of freedom and connection. The first light of dawn filtered softly through the curtains of Linda's modest home in Asheville, casting a gentle glow on the collection of family photographs that lined her mantel. At 74, Linda often felt caught between memories of a vibrant past and the quiet solitude that had crept into her life. Driving, once a daily ritual that symbolized freedom and autonomy, had become a source of growing anxiety. Her doctor's advice to take it easy lingered in her mind, and every trip behind the wheel felt heavier with doubt. The thought of giving up driving felt like surrendering a part of herself she wasn't ready to lose. One evening, while browsing through a technology magazine, Linda read an article about Elon Musk's vision for a fully autonomous America, where self-driving cars would restore mobility and independence to people like her. Musk's words struck a chord: our goal is to empower, not restrict. To give everyone the freedom to move safely and confidently, no matter their age or ability. A flicker of hope ignited within Linda, a whisper that perhaps technology could offer a new path forward. Motivated by this hope, Linda attended a Drive Forward event at the local senior center, joining a group of peers grappling with similar fears and aspirations. Tesla representatives explained the cutting-edge safety features, intuitive controls, and rigorous testing behind autonomous vehicles. When Linda experienced her first autonomous ride, the car navigated Asheville's winding streets smoothly and confidently. The tension that usually gripped her behind the wheel melted away, replaced by a sense of calm and possibility. Gradually, Linda began to integrate autonomous trips into her daily life. She visited the farmer's market, reconnected with old friends over coffee, and attended church services she had long missed. Each journey rekindled a sense of freedom and connection that had been fading. Yet, challenges surfaced. News of autonomous vehicle accidents stirred doubt among neighbors. Regulatory restrictions limited service availability, and some friends questioned whether the technology was ready for widespread use. Linda wrestled with these fears but refused to let them dictate her future. Inspired by Musk's relentless innovation and refusal to accept limitations, Linda joined Drive Forward, a grassroots advocacy group promoting the safe adoption of autonomous mobility for seniors. She shared her story openly, emphasizing the delicate balance of hope and caution necessary for progress. Her honesty inspired others to explore the possibilities. Linda's relationships deepened as she found renewed purpose through advocacy and connection. Friends who had been hesitant began attending workshops and embracing the technology's potential. One crisp autumn afternoon, Linda took an autonomous trip to a nearby botanical garden, immersing herself in the vibrant colors and fragrant blossoms. The experience filled her with joy and a profound sense of belonging. As twilight settled over Asheville, Linda sat on her porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of pine and earth. She smiled softly, a quiet affirmation blooming within her heart, I am never too old to change. The road ahead is mine to travel. With that, Linda stepped confidently into a future rich with freedom, purpose, and hope. The crisp morning air filled Tom's lungs as he stepped out onto the porch of his small ranch-style home in rural Missouri, the distant hum of farm machinery blending with the soft rustle of leaves. At 78, Tom had spent most of his life working the land, driving tractors and pickups, navigating dusty roads that wove through fields of corn and soybeans. His truck had been more than just a vehicle. It was a symbol of independence, a trusted companion in his daily routines. But lately, the aches in his back and the occasional hesitation behind the wheel made him question how much longer he could hold on to that freedom. The thought of giving up driving felt like letting go of a vital part of himself. One evening, as Tom sat by the kitchen table, flicking through the evening news on the small television, he paused at a segment featuring Elon Musk discussing Tesla's autonomous driving technology. Musk's vision of a future where technology transcended age and physical limitations struck a chord deep within Tom. We're building a future where no one has to lose their independence because of age or circumstance, Musk said with conviction. Tom felt a flicker of hope stir, a chance to reclaim freedom on his own terms. With cautious optimism, Tom attended a Drive Forward workshop held at the local community center, joining a group of seniors curious yet apprehensive about autonomous vehicles. Tesla representatives demonstrated the technology's safety features, the intuitive interface, and the rigorous testing ensuring reliability. When Tom took his first self-driving ride, the truck glided effortlessly through familiar rural roads, navigating turns and stops with quiet precision. A wave of relief and excitement washed over him, this was more than he had imagined. Encouraged, Tom began incorporating autonomous trips into his routine. He visited the feed store, reconnected with old friends, and attended church services that had become harder to reach on his own. Each ride reignited a sense of purpose and connection that had been quietly fading. But challenges remained. Reports of autonomous vehicle mishaps stirred fear in his community, and regulatory hurdles slowed wider adoption. Some friends expressed skepticism about the technology's readiness. Tom wrestled with these doubts but refused to let fear dictate his future. Inspired by Musk's relentless innovation and refusal to accept limitations, Tom joined Drive Forward, a grassroots advocacy group promoting safe adoption of autonomous mobility for seniors. He shared his story openly, balancing hope with caution, helping shift perceptions and foster dialogue. Tom's relationships deepened as he found renewed purpose through advocacy. Friends who were once hesitant began exploring autonomous options, attending workshops, and embracing the technology's potential. One cool autumn afternoon, Tom took an autonomous trip to a nearby veterans memorial, a place of reflection and gratitude. Standing among the stones, he felt a profound connection to past sacrifices and future possibilities. As dusk settled over Missouri's rolling fields, Tom sat on his porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of earth and wood smoke. He smiled quietly, a truth settling deep within, I am never too old to change. Every mile forward is a victory. Embracing the road ahead with courage and hope, Tom stepped confidently into a future of freedom and connection. The golden glow of sunset filtered through the tall windows of Evelyn's cozy living room in a quiet suburb of Portland, Oregon, casting long shadows over her collection of worn books and framed family photos. At 75, Evelyn felt the gentle but persistent pull of time, the slow erosion of energy and confidence that had transformed her once active life into a routine marked by cautious steps and tentative decisions. Driving had always been her symbol of independence, a way to weave through the city's streets and maintain a sense of control over her world. But now, with trembling hands and fleeting moments of doubt, the car keys felt heavier than ever. The idea of handing them over seemed like admitting defeat. One chilly evening, while browsing the evening news on her tablet, Evelyn stopped to watch an interview with Elon Musk discussing Tesla's ambitious vision for a fully autonomous America. Musk's words carried a familiar spark of rebellion against limitations. Technology should not be a barrier but a bridge, especially for those who feel left behind by age or circumstance. We're building systems that restore freedom, safety, and dignity. Evelyn felt a flicker of hope ignite deep inside, a quiet voice suggesting that maybe the future still held possibilities for her. Emboldened, Evelyn signed up for a Drive Forward event hosted at the community center downtown, joining a diverse group of seniors navigating the uncertain waters of aging and technology. Tesla representatives explained the intricate safety protocols, the simplicity of the vehicle's interface, and the promise of a new era where mobility was no longer tethered to physical ability. When Evelyn took her first autonomous ride, the car's serene glide through Portland's tree-lined streets felt like a balm to her anxious heart. The familiar tension that had gripped her chest behind the wheel eased, replaced by a calm curiosity and cautious optimism. Encouraged by this experience, Evelyn began to incorporate autonomous rides into her daily routine. She visited the bustling Saturday market, met old friends for coffee, and even ventured to the art museum she hadn't seen in years. Each journey rekindled a sense of freedom and belonging that had quietly slipped away. Yet, challenges arose. News reports about autonomous vehicle accidents stirred skepticism in her circle. Regulations limited the availability of the service, and some friends questioned whether the technology was ready for prime time. Evelyn wrestled with these doubts but refused to let fear dictate her future. Drawing inspiration from Musk's relentless pursuit of innovation and his defiance of societal limits, Evelyn became an active member of Drive Forward, a grassroots advocacy group championing the safe adoption of autonomous vehicles for seniors. She shared her story candidly, highlighting the delicate balance between embracing hope and exercising caution. Her vulnerability and determination inspired others to explore new possibilities. Evelyn's relationships deepened as she found renewed purpose through advocacy and community. Friends who had once been hesitant began attending workshops and cautiously welcoming the technology into their lives. One crisp autumn afternoon, Evelyn took an autonomous trip to a nearby botanical garden, breathing in the vibrant colors and sweet scents that stirred memories of youth and promise. The experience filled her with a profound sense of joy and belonging. As twilight settled over Portland's skyline, Evelyn sat on her porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of rain and cedar. She smiled softly, a quiet affirmation blooming within her heart, "I am never too old to change. The road ahead is mine to travel." With renewed strength and hope, Evelyn embraced a future filled with freedom, purpose, and endless possibility. The first chill of autumn swept through the quiet streets of Cedar Falls, Iowa, as George stepped out onto the porch of his modest farmhouse, the fading light casting long shadows over the golden fields. At 79, George had spent a lifetime behind the wheel, whether guiding tractors across sprawling acres or cruising the winding country roads to visit neighbors and family. His pickup truck was more than transportation, it was a symbol of independence and self-reliance. But lately, the growing stiffness in his joints and the fading sharpness in his eyes made driving increasingly daunting. The thought of surrendering the keys felt like conceding a piece of his identity. One evening, as George scrolled through his tablet, he paused on a video featuring Elon Musk discussing Tesla's vision for a fully autonomous America. Musk's message was clear and compelling: "We're building technology that doesn't just move people from point A to B, it restores freedom, safety, and dignity to everyone, regardless of age. For George, whose world had quietly contracted over the years, those words struck a chord deep within. A spark of hope flickered, a chance to regain control in a new way. With a mixture of curiosity and cautious optimism, George attended a Drive Forward seminar held at the local community hall. There, he met others who, like him, grappled with the challenges of aging and the desire to remain independent. Tesla representatives explained the technology's rigorous safety measures, user-friendly design, and the promise of a future where mobility wasn't limited by physical ability. When George took his first autonomous ride, the vehicle glided smoothly through familiar backroads, expertly navigating turns and stops. The experience was both exhilarating and reassuring. For the first time in months, George felt a genuine sense of freedom. Encouraged, George began to integrate autonomous trips into his weekly routine. He visited the feed store, reconnected with old friends, and made trips to the local church he had not attended in years. Each journey rekindled a sense of purpose and belonging that had quietly slipped away. Yet obstacles emerged. News stories about autonomous vehicle incidents fueled skepticism among neighbors, while regulatory hurdles limited service availability. Some longtime friends doubted the technology's reliability. George wrestled with these doubts but refused to let fear dictate his future. Inspired by Musk's relentless innovation and refusal to accept limitations, George joined Drive Forward, a grassroots group advocating for safe adoption of autonomous vehicles among seniors. He shared his story openly, balancing hope with caution, helping to shift perceptions and foster community dialogue. Through advocacy, George's relationships deepened, and he found renewed meaning in connection and purpose. Friends who had been skeptical began exploring autonomous technology, attending workshops, and embracing new possibilities. One crisp fall afternoon, George took an autonomous trip to a nearby veterans memorial, a place of solemn reflection and gratitude. Standing among the weathered stones, he felt a profound connection to both past sacrifices and future hope. As dusk settled over the Iowa countryside, George sat on his porch, the cool breeze carrying the scent of earth and wood smoke. He smiled quietly, a truth settling deep within: I am never too old to change. Every mile forward is a victory. Embracing the road ahead with courage and hope, George stepped confidently into a future of freedom and connection. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?